Okay, so let's start. Today's session is about microservice architecture pattern. It's all about service communications, how services can talk to each other to perform a business activities. So we have already done two events. One of the software architecture patterns. So we have discussed a lot of architecture pattern and pros and cons along with. So in today's session, we will going to discuss about microservices, how communicate through the external or internal. So that these patterns these patterns are about to handle external or internal reliable communication across the microservice in a modern software application. So that's the goal of these presentations. So let's start with agenda. Let's start with some introduction part. So it's about me. So I think we have already discussed these slides. So let's go through all about. I'm software engineer and trainer and consultant. So one of the site is Dinesh on Java. It's actually found by me, and I have authored multiple books, as you can see in section. And as a software engineer, I'm working with a e-commerce company, based on the Noida. So as a trainer, I am providing training on Spring Framework and microservice architectures, and also consulting some work who want help to me, like who want to adopt the microservice architecture in your existing application. So it also provide the help on it. And so please mute all microphones. As a author, I have worked with the two publications, that's PAC publication and BPP publications. We have authored several books, you can see here in the state. So these books are available on the online portals, so as like Flipkart and on Amazon's. So that's about dinishonjava.com. It's article website, so you can see a lot of examples here, question answers, things. So today's agenda. So as we have told you, today we are going to discuss the how services communicate to each other, either internally or externally. So before that, going to the microservice architecture, first we have to discuss how services collaboration between the monolith application. So after that, we will see service collaboration between a microservices architecture. Then we will see remote procedure invocation, what is the RPA things, and how we can communicate the remote things, like any program that is hosted on a different server, how we can call that servers by program. And then we will see how we can communicate, that's what is interaction styles we can use to communicate with the services. Then after that, we see synchronous communication patterns. Synchronous communication patterns, we have to wait for client server output, and client should wait for that output. So we will see circuit breaker pattern on the synchronous part and server discovery patterns. Along with this, we will see as an asynchronous communication patterns and messaging patterns and brokers. So we will see message brokers, how can help that to perform message based communication in the microservice architecture. And after that, finally we will see external API database patterns. So how external client can communicate to your applications by using some edge services like authentication or authorization and different cross-cutting services. So start with the service collaboration in a monolithic application. So before that, service collaboration in a monolithic application, we need to understand what is the monolith application. So we have discussed in a multiple slides about the monolith application. So monolith is nothing but a single artifact application whose contain all interfaces in a single artifacts. So here, services in a monolith application just like a module or separate Java class. So like if you consider an application like order, like if you want to purchase some book from online portal, so there are an order service or something inventory service and shipping services and payment services. These services, nothing like, it's like a Java classes, some interfaces, some layering. So, but these all things contained in a single application. So in a service collaboration in a monolith, just like a Java call. So it's language level function or method calls. So it's not actually need here IPC or any remote procedure functionality. Even we are not calling to the external things. In case of monolith application, suppose we are using third-party APIs. So in that case, we need to be call through the any RPI mechanism. So, but generally we don't need any IPC or RPI things in a monolith application for internal call. But in case of service, in a collaboration in a microservice architecture, so we need a RPC mechanism. So why? Because service in a microservice architecture, application not a single artifact. It is set of services that is hosted in a multiple cluster-based environment. It's a distributed environment. So, or suppose we have to call for particular business functionality, then that particular business functionality we need to be call multiple services. It's not a single service to perform a particular business functionality. So that is several of services might be required for to perform a business functionality. So in that case, we need to be communicate. We need a communication strategy between the services. So service must be collaborated in a order to handle a request. As I told you, for business, but particular business functionality, we need a service collaboration between them. So a service, as you know, service are running in separate process in separate machines. So how we can talk with the services? So services must be interact with any RPI mechanism. So RPI mechanism, that consideration of RPI mechanism is not an important part, but like we have to decide something impact of availability of service, so that we can call that service in such manner so the availability of the service will be high. So in such manner we have to use RPI mechanism. So RPI mechanism, just like you must be aware about REST services. So REST, one of the architectural pattern that is actually using for communicate the services between them. So REST, one of the mechanism, and gRPC, another mechanism that is provided by the Google, and Apache Thread another. So these are technologies we can use to communicate with the communication between the services. So we will see detail in further slides. So before that, we have to see what is the style of interactions. So interaction styles doesn't depend upon the technologies. So interaction style, just like a strategy, we need to be used in an application where we want. So interaction style, we provide the high availability in some case and low availability in some cases. So interaction style, what is this? So I have divided this interaction style in two dimensions. One dimension is one-to-one communication. Another dimension is things is one-to-many dimensions, one-to-many communications. So one-to-one, as name suggests, one service call to exactly one client request to process by exactly one service. In the one-to-many, each client request is processed by the multiple services. So that is one-to-one and one-to-many communication style. In second dimensions, you can see here synchronous communication and asynchronous communication. So as synchronous communication, just like the client expects a timely response from the service and it wait for a while. But in case of asynchronous communication style, the client doesn't wait for response for a service. So this table is described more about two dimensions. So for synchronous can only provide the request and response model. It not provide any one-to-many model. One client is served by the one service is only in the synchronous. But in case of asynchronous, we can create request response model asynchronously, and also we can create publics and subscribe methodology by using any message broker. So in the one-to-one synchronous model, the client might block a while for waiting the response, and it is tightly coupled actually, because our client is still wait for the service response from the service. If service is not able to respond properly, so client must be wait for that. On that time, the availability of the client is low, and it is tightly coupled with the service. Suppose service is in some cases down, not able to respond, so our client is also behave like something that unresponsive behavior. So in asynchronous request response, client doesn't block for a while. It will just ask and forget. It's loosely coupled. So in case of publish subscribe, so client publish a notification or message which is consumed by a 0 or more interaction services. So like a lot of service might be in the one-to-many or one-to-one. So all services that is subscribed that particular event channel, so that will be receiving the message whatever delivered by the client. So in the synchronous communication pattern, you can see. So synchronous, as I told you, the client expect a response within the time. If it's not response to in the time, so it block the thread while it is waiting for a response from the server. So example for that, REST, gRPC, even we can use REST as a asynchronous as well. So that's some asynchronous REST template. If you aware about the Spring REST template, so Spring also provide async REST template. So, but it is still a blocking call. It is not a non-blocking call. It's a blocking call because we have to wait for response in that case, either synchronously or asynchronously. So these are two services. If these services communicate, these services won't communicate to each other through the synchronous communication pattern. So suppose we are using any RPI technology, right? Mostly we are going to discuss here REST. So any RPI technology implemented by the both services. So these services talk to each other through the RPI. Just send a request or get the response from the services. So these type of communications, blocking communications, suppose payment service not able to respond in a particular time. So order service availability for that time will be blocked. So something availability, high availability is not provided by this type of communications. So it is REST call. So REST, it's something, some high level definition of REST. I think you must be aware about that. REST is architecture style patterns that describe the best practice how we can use HTTP protocols. So it's based on the resource-based things, and it's actually invented by the Roy Fielding, and it's based on the HTTP protocols. What methods, what is other things. Actually, REST is nothing. It's a wrapper of HTTP protocols. It's provided some best practice how we can use HTTP protocols. So it's based on the resource. Whatever data we are traveling through the REST is called resource. So it's totally representation of resource. So some benefits, some drawback for REST. It's a very simple and familiar. Mostly calls if you're talking to different program, different application in a different server. So mostly an organization used as a synchronous through the REST services. So it's a HTTP supported. So all things, whatever HTTP support is also supported by the REST services, because as I told you, it's a wrapper over the HTTP protocols. It's directly support the request response model, and it doesn't require any intermediate broker. You can directly call to the service via HTTP protocol. So many more benefits might be there. So, but along with the benefit, there's something drawbacks there. Like it's only support request response communication style. And if you talking to with the REST services, then it's reduced the availability, and client must know location of the service, because if you want, if one service talk to another service, so the client service must be aware about the location of service where they want talk. If location is not available, then client not able to talk. That is benefit, that is a drawback of that REST services. And fetching resource in multiple, like fetching multiple resources in a single request is one of the challenging parts. Suppose if you want data like order and account data in a one request, so resource getting the resource in through the REST and following all 6 constant, so that is something challenging for us. So that is drawbacks. There are many more drawbacks. And gRPC, one of the protocol that is actually invented by the Google. So right now it's not too much mature as REST mature. So so companies some like want to use like some neutral protocol like that is not much depend upon the HTTP. So we can use gRPC based communication. The service client directly call to the method of the service. It's just like a socket programming. So here actually like one service have call to the different service, that's like Java call over the server. So internally even this protocol is using HTTP, but it's something different wrapper of HTTP protocols. So it's a cross language client we can use. Suppose in the REST, if you want to talk to the Java type of client, so we need to be write REST call like a Java class. But here that is not. If you want to write C++ code for Java clients, you can also use cross any language. So it is not depend upon the language. So it's something like this high level diagram. So there are 3 clients. So one client in the C++, another Java, and the Ruby. So they can talk to each other. So these gRPC protocol neutral from the language. So there are some benefits to design. So it's very straightforward to design API, even complex API. Even I don't have any experience on gRPC. I'm just giving some high level theoretical knowledge to you. So it's an efficient, compact IPC mechanism, especially when exchanging the large messages. Bidirectional streaming enable both RPI and messaging style for communication. It enables the interoperability between the client and service written in wide range of languages. And drawbacks. So it's older. It's not support older firewalls. So it might not support HTTP2. So it takes some more work for JavaScript client to consume gRPC and API. You know, if you want to talk to any service through the Java-based client like React.js or AngularJS, so REST is very simple to use. But in case of gRPC, that is something different. That is something challenging for us to develop. So that's one of the reason to gRPC is not much popular as REST is popular. But either you are using REST or gRPC, but there's something problem related to the partial failure. Suppose we have multiple services in a sequence. Suppose we want to serve a request, and that request actually fulfilled by the multiple services, 1 or 10 services. So in that case, what happens? Any one of the service from the 10 services is fails. So its impact to all services. So that is means its cascading failure might be region. Suppose order service, shipping service, and payment service, and account service. There are 4 services there. In case of payment service not able to respond because bank service might be down on that time. So what happens? The order service not properly get response from the payment service. That's why order not able to hand over to the saving service, not able to hand over to the any restaurant service. So like if any partial failure happens with the REST type of communication, like synchronous communication, it might be cascading failure. So how we can avoid the cascading failure through the synchronous? So let's say so circuit breaker pattern, one of the pattern that is actually about, it's actually to prevent the cascading failure between the services actually. So like whenever we talk to the any service by another service, so what happens, any failure, partial failures might be happens, so we need to be create a proxy over the RPI mechanism like REST or any. So in that case what happens, and if you want to call any service, then that RPI proxy will observe the response from the written response written from the service. So it suppose anytime any cascading or any consecutive failures is there, so it monitor that like timeout or any other else. So it any consecutive failures there, then it actually activate the circuit breaker. So we need to be specify one threshold, because threshold suppose we call to the one service, so a service is not able to respond on one time, so we can't activate the circuit breaker on one time only. So we need to wait the response for multiple consecutive failure. So we suppose we have defined 10 consecutive failures. Suppose 10 requests consecutively failed by the any service, that means there's something not good with the service. So like timeout, or might be server is down due to some region. So in that case, we need to be activate our circuit breaker. So circuit breaker, nothing. It actually like to prevent a network or such service failure for cascading, to avoid the cascading failure between the services. So it's something like that. Suppose their consumer service, one of the producer service. So in the consumer and producer, we have put a layer that is circuit breaker. So if everything's going right, then there's no problem. Circuit breaker will not able to activate, it's closed circuit. But any time, suppose consumer call to the producer, so there's something problem is might be timeout happens. So again it will call, or again same consumer might be called again, or might be different consumer might be called that producer. So if again timeout, and this timeout happens till the threshold, whatever we have defined in the circuit breaker. So after that, circuit breaker make a trip, and further calls whatever comes to the producer, it will be open the circuit, and it never call the exact service. It will just proxy will return the default value, or we can handle by yourself with the giving some different server calls. Suppose we have we have a particular service that is very critical for you, and we need to call that service, and services on that particular time is giving the timeout, multiple timeout. But in that case, what you need to be do that for the particular occasional service, we need parallelly we need another server, and once the service is failed, we need to switch to the different server. So that's it's depend upon the how we can implement your circuit breaker. So circuit breaker actually have kind of states. One closed state. If state is closed, that means all services working fine and properly responses. And if circuit breaker is open, that means there's something problem with the service, and service not able to respond properly. And half open means once service circuit breaker is open, then it will try to half open to resolve the things. Like suppose let's see example. What in this diagram you can see, if circuit breaker is closed, that means all things success. If any case, if service is not able to respond properly, and the threshold limit will be reached, in that case your circuit breaker will be open, and all request comes to that service, circuit breaker will call the fallback method in that case. And after some time, whatever you have defined, it will call again that service, but half open means there's half request might be come to the go to the circuit breaker, or might go with the service. So in that case, service is still failing, then it also make the half open state to the is move to the half open state to the open state. In any case, if service is able to respond successfully, then your state of the circuit breaker will be closed. So circuit breaker pattern is totally depend upon the how we can implement, right? So a mobile client like make a REST request to a API gateways, which is entry point of the application of API. The API gateway proxy, uh, if API gateway proxy the request to the unresponsive order service. Let's see diagram. Suppose a client service, that is client service, that is might be an application or any other service that need to be talked to the another service. So what happens? Suppose a order service. If suppose this is the order service, you want to create the order. So through the API gateway, it won't call to API or sorry order service, and that order service on particular time is unresponsive. So what happens in this case? So here order, if you want to use a circuit breaker pattern, so what happens? API gateway doesn't directly use to the order service. It will route the all calls through the proxy. So order proxy is there at the point of API gateway. So API gateway, that proxy able to watch that particular service is responsive or not. Accordingly, it handle the request. Open, either it's open the circuit breaker or close the circuit breaker. So there are some solutions that is provided by the Netflix to implement RPI proxy, that is circuit breaker pattern. So Netflix Strix libraries is available. It's a very popular library for the JVM modules. Any client that is using the Java, so we can use Netflix Strix. And non-JVM, we can use poly libraries like .NET or C#. For C# language, we can use poly library that is also available in the market. And another things like decide how to recover our failure services. So suppose the service is failed. So in that case, what you need to be written? Actually, that is not hard and fast rule. What should be written? It's depend upon the your service requirement or how your requirement to how requirement is crucial. So it's totally depend. So suppose your client want just like if service not able to respond, so you can just written hard coded data. So that is not a problem. If some client want, if not able to respond this particular service, you just written a error, and or you can implement a fallback value. So it's totally depend how we can handle your fallback things. Either we can like we want data from database, but database on that particular time is not available. We can talk to the Solr or any other technology or any MongoDB. So it's depend how we can how we can handle the failure things. So preventing partial failure is essential part of your services, but it is not only problem when we talk to the synchronous communication through the RPI. Another problem how to get the location of the services, because in the, as I told you, if REST want to call a different service through the REST, at least you need to know where your service is hosted. There are two things you require: one IP and another is a port. If IP port is available, then you can talk to the service only. That is another challenge for RPI based technology. So in that case, what happens uh, in a microservice? In the microservice, might be there are a lot of services for a particular, lot of instance for a particular service due to scaling, auto scaling. If you are using AWS cloud-based technology, so in that case, if your service is hosted multiple instance, suppose we have initially level we have hosted one instance in the AWS, but AWS also provide the auto scaling mechanism. If you enable that auto scaling mechanism, what happens? Suppose after 100 number of requests, if any request higher than 100, so your instance automatically scale and create a new instance for particular service. So how we can handle, because your services is increasing dynamically. So IP increased, decreased, it's depend upon the scaling part. That is actually one of the very big advantage of microservice architecture. So, but the challenge is that how we can monitor these type of things, like if your instance automatic scaling, new instance is created, so how we can get the IP of that instance. So that's something, another challenge if we are using RPI based, like REST based communication with the microservice architecture. For that, uh, that is service discovery patterns is there. So we can use service discovery patterns. So in the microservice architecture, various protocol is to connecting service to each other, but service instance are dynamically assigned network location due to auto scaling or failure. If case of auto scaling, it increase the instance. In case of failure, it decrease the instance. And if you want to upgrade something, so it also might be increased or decreased. So how these service find each other? So something like this. Suppose one the service client and another the order service. So in the order service, you can see there's 3 instances on that time. Instance 1, instance 2, instance 3. So service client actually, if service client directly call to the like service, suppose we are using API gateway right now. So now API gateway want talk to these services. So how we can talk? At least API gateway required one IP address of these instances, because these instances, suppose if these instances 6 is fixed, then we can assign these are 3 instance is there, you just use it. But if you are using dynamically, so dynamically might be one instance destroyed, so there one IP reduce. If another instance will be created, so it will be dynamically assigned new instance, new IP of that. So how API gateway can find these things? So that is the question mark here. So in that case, we can use service discovery. So that is the reason we can't statically configure, because IP might be changed, it depends. So we can use discovery, and in the discovery pattern, we use the service registry as a database of network location or service instance. So service discovery, actually, we can use 2 types. One of the client side and another server side. I think these slides already discussed in the first session. So let's discuss again. So in the client side, so client side services are find the location of other services instance by querying a service registry. Service registry, nothing, is a database of service location in the cloud. So in that case, client service, whatever client service need to be talked to that database and find the location and talk to the service. That means client have the extra responsibility to handle such type of things. Then client also responsible to managing load balance. So what happens, suppose service, if client want order service, but order service have 3 instances, as I in the previous slide we have seen. So if which instance should be called, so that means the finding of the service not only responsibility, how we can handle the load across 3 instances, which instance should be called. So that algorithm should be implemented at the client side to get high availability instance. So you can see here. So previous example, same example here. So how we can see how service discovery happens here. So service, actually, this is the database that is called service registry actually. So this is service registry is some service name and IP addresses. So like it's here I'm using an example like order service. So client actually won't talk to the order service here. So in that case, first off, if you want to define any service discovery, so what happens, all things like all service must be registered with the service registry. So it's like if you are using Spring Cloud, so it's something Eureka service discovery there. So just enable Eureka server. So it's only one address is enough to use. So once your service is started, it automatically registered with the Eureka server. So similar here. order service just started, it's registered with the is this registry server. So this IP is available there. So same, all service must be registered by yourself. So these self-registration is there. It's like registered with the name of service and with the IP and port in the database. And as service client is called to API gateway. So API gateway actually, as I told you, API gateway right now it's a client for all services. So in that case, this API gateway must be aware about the service discovery things, because all logic related to the service discovery at the must be implemented at the API gateway side, because API gateway should be responsible to get the service IP or port. After getting the service IP or the port, is also responsible to handle the load balance. So just it's query to the order service, just like suppose service client call to the API gateway and it's call for order service. So it's make a query to the service registry, just give the service name. If same service name is available in the registry server, it pastes all available IP, all available instance in the service registry to the API gateway. So after querying order service, it returns the 3 IP. Now, another responsibility of API gateway to decide which one should be called, which instance should be called here. So that is actually, if you want Spring Cloud, that Raven is the library you can use at the side of API gateway to decide which IP must be called depend on the some algorithm. This algorithm you can also implement your client side. So mostly cases what happens, it's decide the which instance should be called depend upon the high availability of instance. Suppose instance one of order service have some few loads. If we compare with the instance 2 or instance 3, then maximum chance to call order service instance 1. So this is actually client side discovery things, how things are registered and how we can handle the request and how we can query to the server registry and how API gateway balance the load across the instance of order services. So there's some benefits there. So it's a very simple and straightforward to use. And client load balancing means we can use your own algorithm at the side of client, because we can write your code and you can decide how we can decide which instance appropriate for you. You can customize your code because you are handling the client load balancing. So that is something benefit, or along with that benefit, some drawbacks there. So drawback like couples, because right now client code is coupled with the service registry code. That is not actually responsibility of client code. So that is something drawback might be there, and need to be implement discovery logic for each services. Suppose what happens in the client side, suppose there are a lot of client services there. So this code like related to the load balancing or service discovery, we need to be implement in each client. So that means we are scattering our code of discovery or load balancing across the number of clients. So that is something drawback. So we need some centralized mechanism to call, because our client might be not responsible for that implementing discovery service. So we need to have some central mechanism. So let's see server-side discovery patterns. So in that server-side discovery pattern, if you want to use, so in the server side, client service is not able to handle any things related to the service registry or any, like client service doesn't need to be worried about managing the code for load balancing or discovery services. Client service can use separate load balancer server. So same example as we have seen in the previous slides. So here we want to use server discovery side pattern. So client side, actually the service registry is also available there because we are using multiple things. So service registry is important, right? So we need to be handle all order service instance in a particular location that's called service registry, right? So in that case, what happens? In previous slide, we can see our services self-registered with the server registry. But in that case, services is not responsible to register yourself to the server registry. So that is some of the example of NGINX actually, how NGINX work. So in here we need a service register just like third party registration, something protocol or something rules, something platform is there. So it's just working like an observer. So any new instance is added on that particular for order service, it observe and register that IP and location to be the server registry. So it's called third party registration. It observe any new instance is available, it registered with, it update to the registry service, right? So, but along with that service register, it's also using some platform router, load balancer, because here client is not responsible to handle the load balancing as well. So client just call, it's like client just call this router and tell how it called, just giving the some virtual IP. Every router have the virtual IP just called BIP. So in that virtual IP, it's actually not a machine, it's something like logical or something configuration that handle, that have all configuration related to the instances available on different cluster, right? So service client is called that platform router, and via virtual IP or DNS, like something orderservice.com or something we can say. So it is something DNS, and after as we router will call, so router just perform just search to the query to the registry server, and it all these things working in the different environment is called deployment platform. It's not related to the any service, it's also not related to the any client, it's a different environment deployment platform. So after querying to the registry service registry, it get the data, this instance should be called by some algorithm whatever implementing at platform router, but it is a central, any services must be called platform router. So in that case we don't need to be write service discovery logic or load balancer logic at the client code. Here we just perform, we just configure one time and use that, so accordingly it call. So this type of this server side discovery actually using third party service registration. So third party, I told you, just instead of service registering itself with the service registry, a third party called registrar, which is typically part of deployment platform, handle the registration. Similarly, server service discovery at the server side. We are not doing service discovery at the client side. So that is like instead of client side querying the service registry, it make the request to the DNS name, which resolve the request router that query to the service registry and load balancer request. So it's have some benefits if we compare with the client side. So client is not aware, not required to write the code related to the discovery or like balancing. So client right now just free from that. So that is something benefits, and drawback like load balancing might be single point of failure. So that's actually we are right now we highly depend upon the load balancer. So load balancer server might be highly available on that case. So and even there are some network round might be increased because we are calling platform, then platform call the registry. So there's some network latency might be there in if we compare with the client side discovery. So we have discussed synchronous communication. It's a very popular communication pattern, and it is using mostly REST API because it's a REST API is a very popular RPI technologies. We can use it, not technology, it's a pattern. And but synchronous communication reduce the service availability. But service availability is a crucial factor because typo. It's crucial factor. And so because it need, if we want to talk to the crucial service that is very important for you, so availability of that crucial service must be there. So high availability must be there. So means availability factor we can't ignore. So we need to be, in some cases where we need to communicate with the asynchronous patterns. So asynchronous pattern actually, as I told you here, client actually doesn't block any thread or not wait for response if not coming from the server side. So just like we call to the service and the service not able to properly respond, it doesn't impact on client service. So client service just call and forget that. So this type of communication is possible with the lightweight message broker. So message broker is mostly available, most popular like Apache Kafka, RabbitMQ, and many more is available. So Kafka, one of the very popular message broker, distributed message broker. So we can use it for microservice based application. So messaging based application is typically using the message broker, but we can also use brokerless architecture. So that is only not the mandatory to use message broker, any message broker. We can also use brokerless architecture, but brokerless architecture is not too much mature because there are a lot of drawback to use. So in case of you are using crucial application like your message too much crucial for your business, so in that case we can't use brokerless, because in case of brokerless, if any message is lost, we can't recover that message broker. But broker, if you're using message brokers, that is guaranteed delivery. If Kafka, one of the very actually like take the guarantee to deliver the message at least once. So earlier we can say order service and payment service. So that's we have seen this is the synchronous based communication, and we have seen how RPI things call the service and service how it's response to the, and at time of calling payment service, order service must wait till process the request. So this is called synchronous communication. So how we can move from the synchronous communication to the asynchronous communication? Suppose same order service want talk payment service. So how we can make it like asynchronous? So in that case, we need to be used one layer that is called message broker layer. So in between that, we have to put a message broker. That message broker actually, instead of getting the request as a HTTP form, it take the message. So message might be like event or any data that is actually we need to be triggered to the message broker. So message broker, similarly payment service subscribe that message broker, and whatever message is published by the order service on a particular topic or particular partitions, it will received by the payment service. So order service is a sender service or payment service is the receiver service. So this architecture called asynchronous communications. So you can see in the above synchronous communication, if order service want communicate to the payment service, so what thing required? First things required, like if partial failure happens. So if partial failure means if payment service not available. So in that case, we need to be implement circuit breaker pattern to avoid the cascading failure. But same things you can see in asynchronous communication. Here, circuit breaker is not required. If suppose orders payment service is not able to respond, order service just push the message and forward to the message broker. So that's a responsibility of message broker to deliver that message to the payment service at time of availability. That means if here we just avoid to use circuit breaker patterns, extra, that is extra responsibility to use. So there are no proxies required for order service or proxy or payment service. Another things in the synchronous communication, if order service won't talk to the payment service, their service IP is required. Location of the service is required. So in that case, we have to use service discovery We need to implement any cloud or service-based discovery to talk to that services. But in that case, there no service discovery is required. We just publish. So in the synchronizer, all service is tightly coupled, you can say, in somewhere. It need to be known to each other by any way, like name of the service or discovery service, or directly to call. But here, order service, payment service, there no relation between them. They publish the message to the message broker, they receive the message from the message broker. They don't know to each other. So that's microservice chases. So how we can achieve, what technology is providing the framework, which framework we can use to achieve this asynchronous communication patterns. So if you are something, some might be some, everybody is familiar about the Spring. So Spring Cloud Stream provide this mechanism. We can use it, provide the message driven microservice. We can use that. We can create the message driven microservices using Kafka or any other platforms, any other infrastructure of message broker. So Kafka I have written because it's a very popular right now. So before that, let's see what is messaging actually. So before the messaging, need to be understand what are messages. So message is not a WhatsApp message. So a message is somewhat like data. Data might be such a command, domain object, might be any event, might be any document, any specific format, because format is required. If you don't want to define the format, then message broker will publish that message. Message consumer will message producer will publish the message to the broker, but consumer not able to receive. So that means we need to be defined the format. So format might be any, but need to be defined. So all messages, whatever we have created, is always exchange over the message channels. So a sender write a message to the message channel and receiver read the message from the message channel. So message channel, nothing, it's an implementation of message broker. We will see in the later in slide. So first, message had two parts. First part is the header. Another part is the header is nothing. Header is about the like metadata. It's something metadata about message. So in the metadata, it has message ID or return address. We will see what is the return address here. And body, you know, it's a content, what need to be sent to the consumer. And one more thing, message, whatever type of written, what is format we are using, what type of data we are writing, either image or in text, whatever we want to write, message broker treat everything like bytes. So it's only need a byte, sequence of byte. So message format must be defined. It might be document contain only data or command. Command just like to perform any specific operation by using some parameters. Or it might be event. So event, nothing, any state change in the object. Suppose we have created an order, and the order initially is created blank order. After getting the payment, that change the state of order, like payment received. So after receiving the payment, it invoke the event. It invoke the it create the message key order received or payment received to the restaurant. Then restaurant create the take the booking for that. After preparing the food, it invoke another service like shipping service. Yeah, order prepared. So after order prepared, state changed. It called the shipping service, and shipping service received that order and delivered to the client. And after that, it state changed the order delivered. That means order created, payment received, food prepared. These are state of change. These are events. So any event, any domain object, change in the domain object is called event. So we have talked about something or messages, whatever. Let's see something about message channel. So as I told you, message channel actually it's like abstraction of the messaging infrastructure, like any infrastructure like Kafka or RabbitMQ. So it's about like implementation, or we can say abstractions. We can use message channel. Spring Cloud very enhanced exhaustive support for message channel type of. So we don't need to be write the code that is depend upon the any message broker. So we if want switch from the one message broker to another message broker, it's a very easily if you are using message channel. So there are two services, sender service and receiver service. So in that sender service, how message channel actually work on that in between these two services. So in the case of sender service, one port we need to be implemented is called sending port. So sending port, nothing, it's an interface where we have defined how we can deliver your message to the broker. So similarly for the receiver service, it had the receiving port is nothing, is how we can consume that message. That is the interface at the consumer side. That is actually layer of abstraction. So the service is not tightly coupled with the any message broker here. So we just create the sending port and receiving port. So our services totally depend on that. So what is the implementation we are using background, that is depend upon the which channel we are using. So what is the next? This is a message sender. This is the implementation of sending ports. So similarly for the receiver side, we need to be use message handler. This is the implementation of receiving port, right? So in between them, we need to be use messaging infrastructure. Any messaging infrastructure we can use, but we need to talk message channel. So that message channel actually implementation of particular messaging infrastructure. So for us, this messaging channel is abstraction about the messaging infrastructure. So we need to be talk that message channel only. We need to be send your message, and the message have header and body. So header, as I told you, something metadata about message, and body is just what data we want to deliver to the receiver side. So that receiver actually consume that message, receive that message, and any number of services, sender services we have created. That doesn't mean we can only create one sender service. We can create any number of sender service. Similarly, we can use any number of receiver service within the single channel. So that is actually flow how it's work. Whatever we have discussed, the message, the business logic in the sender side invoke the sending port interface, which is implemented by the sender service, sender adapter, sorry. Then the message sender sends the message to the receiver via message channel. After that, the message channel is abstraction of messaging infrastructure. So all message handler adapter is received a message handler adapter in the receiver side is invoke the handle to handle that particular message whatever received in the message channel. So it invoke the receiving port and implemented by the receiver business logic. So what type of message channel is there? So message channel, actually we can see message channel for point-to-point channels. So means we can create a message channel in such one service. One is the service consumer, one is the service producer. So there one only consumer, one only producer. This is point-to-point channel. Another publish subscribe means there are one consumer might be there, and there are a lot of there one producer might be there, but a lot of consumer of that particular channel. So publish subscribe mostly used for scaling part. So when once we want scale our receive, suppose we want to scale our producer side, or we want to scale our consumer side, then we can use publish subscribe channel. So in the case of point to point, it deliver a message to the exactly one of the consumer that is reading from the channel. It is for one-to-one interaction style. But in case of public subscribe channel, deliver each message to all of attached consumer. Means we just deliver to that channel, and all consumer that subscribe to this channel will receive message. It's like one-to-many interaction style. So in the case of point-to-point messaging, So client send a message, command message, which specifies some operations with a parameter and to a point-to-point channel. And the service actually process that request whatever sent by the client and send the reply, and which contain the outcome to a point-to-point channel. That means here we need to be wait for here whatever client service must be required is output from the service. So that doesn't means ki our client service will wait for the output from the service. So it is different things whatever we have in use in rest. In the rest we just call to the different service, and on that time we are blocked for that while till our service doing processing. But here client doesn't wait, but it required output whatever like we are create the service, create the order is created, that is required for order service. If payment is received, then it's required for order if payment received or not. So that means some acknowledgement, something output required for the client service in that case. So which type of implementation we can use in point-to-point request response implementation? So in that case, what happens key, like suppose we are calling to the message broker. So message service client actually required a acknowledgement from message broker. Yes, I have received your message. So some acknowledgement required. That's called request response. Another asynchronous request response means client service doesn't wait for the message broker acknowledgement. Here just call the message broker and forward. But here we required output of service that is processed by the different service. And one is the one-way notification. That means we just call to the message broker and message broker hand over to the consumer, and consumer process and doesn't return anything to the reply channel. So that is called one-way notification. So let's see. It's a request response point-to-point channel messaging implementation. So here sender service or receiver service. So sender service actually send a request to the request channel. This request channel is known as a point-to-point channel. So sender service and also have one reply channel, because you know in this type of interaction style, sender service always wait for not wait for like blocking the thread. Wait for means it required the output of receiver service for a particular request data. So suppose sender service send a request message to the request channel by specifying message and body. So in that case, you can see header have some part like message ID. What is the message ID of that particular message? So that message ID might be, if suppose order, we are creating order. So order ID might be a message ID. So the message ID, it's at arbitrary, whatever you want to use. And you need to be define return address. So return address you can see. So return address nothing. It's the name of the channel of reply. Because sender service, after processing that request, sender service will looking forward to the reply channel of some output for that particular message ID. So in that case, request channel receive that message with some metadata or body of the message. Then receiver, that is subscribe the request channel, it receive that message and process this message. After processing, sorry. So after receiving this message, receiver service actually process this message, whatever client want to do. So after processing this message, receiver service return a reply to the reply channel in form of message. So that this message, this particular message, reply message, is actually contain a correlation ID. So the correlation ID, nothing, it's the same ID whatever we have defined the message ID, because it's the relation. Suppose we have created one order, so a particular order ID is a message ID. So request channel request channel actually send that order ID to the receiver, and receiver perform that request and create the order, or something performed like a payment service. So after performing the payment, we need to be ensure keep this particular payment happens against this order ID. So it mentioned as a correlation ID and hand over to the sender, that is order service. That means order service update the database. Yes, payment is received. Now sender will receive generate new request to the restaurants. So this is something like that. So after sending the reply to the reply channel, and reply channel actually subscribed by the sender service and read that particular message of same whatever header is associated with that, and update the same data whatever send the request, right? In one-way notification, in the as name suggests, one-way notification, it doesn't await about what is output. Like we just created the order and send the notification to the customer. Yes, your order has been placed. So here in that case, we don't need to be get the response from that service, message deliver or not. So we just whatever order placed by the customer, we after receiving the order, after performing, after successfully placed the order, we just send a mail to the customer. Yes, I have received your order successfully placed, you will be get the food in 30 minutes. So in that case, we have to use point to point channel, one-way notification. Here only request channel is there are no reply channel, same things. So in that case, message ID not required, header we have placed here, but it is not required because we are not waiting for reply anything. So we just triggered and forgot what happens. So this is actually client send a message, typically a command message to point channel owned by the service. The service subscribe to that channel and process the message and doesn't send back reply. That is called one-way notification, point to point channel messaging. So let's see public subscribe messaging. So in the public subscribe messaging, we need to implement a public subscribe channel. So here what happens, a client publish a message to a publish. So in the public subscribe messaging, client publish a message to a publish subscribe channel that is read by the multiple consumers, and service use the publish subscribe channel to publish the domain events which represent the change in the data object, and service that publish the domain events on a public subscribe channel whose name is derived from the domain class. That means we need to be create, suppose we want to create a message channel, we need to be specify the name of the channel as such domain object, like order service channel or account service channel or payment service channel or restaurant service channel. So as name suggests, because in the rest case you can use a Swagger to specify your APIs, but in case of messaging based APIs, there are no technology, there are no documentation style to use in a messaging based communication. So in that case of messaging based communication, you have to ensure about at the time of creation. So you need to be define your message name properly, your message channel name properly. If you are using Kafka, you need to be defined topic name properly. So you can't use ABC topic name, XYZ topic. You need to be specific topic name as domain name. Suppose order service, if you want to perform, so order channel, something like that. So it must be matched with the domain object. So it's implementation like implementing public subscribe, and another here no reply is there. it just creates a publish and subscribe. And here replies there, because in case of some cases in one-to-many, we need some reply, because one-to-many is only required at time of scaling. So if you want to scale your services, if you scale your service, suppose there are a lot of producers producing the message to the message broker simultaneously. Suppose in the big bazaar, there are a lot of billing counters there. So billing counter just like a producer, and you need to be save that data in the data center. So there are a lot of billing counter in the big bazaar 1, big bazaar 2, big bazaar 3. So there are a lot of producers there. But if you are defining one consumer for all billing counter, so you can't scale your business. You can't handle this such type of request. So from the message broker. So in that case, you need to be create a lot of message consumer as well. So in that case, just like a one-to-many things. So here we need in some cases in the one-to-many we need reply. In some cases we don't need reply. If we don't need reply, then called publish and subscribe things. If we need reply, then we can say implement publish async response. So in that case, there are two services. Suppose we have one service, order service, and because we need to be talk to the one-to-one or one-to-many. So here we need to talk one-to-many. So that means we have multiple receivers there. Receiver 1, receiver 2, receiver 3. So these receiver actually consume the top whatever message produced by the sender services. So these receiver actually combine as a group. If you if you are talking in sense of Kafka, we called is a consumer group. So is a consumer services interested in a domain. So these all services actually interested in a domain name called order. So order might be a topic name if you want to use Kafka. So this public subscribe channel is there. So this public subscribe channel is associated with the order only. So your sender service send the request, send the message to the public subscribe channel. So this channel actually have two parts, as told you, body and header. And after this subscription, because all channel is subscribed to particular topic, so all receiver will receive all messages whatever posted by the order service. It depend upon the responsibility. So if you want to implement public async response, so it's the thing is something public subscribe plus request async response combination. So we need to be one-to-many relationship with the reverse with the reply channel. So same in that same example, we need to be implement a reply channel. So that's case like public subscribe channel, one channel is required reply channel. So any receiver want to report the data with according to the correlation ID. So just order service will or sender service will subscribe that reply channel and receive the output from the any instance of receiver. So we have discussed the message channel model, and it's actually great for better approach to design a asynchronous API, but you need to choose technology, which technology you need to be used. So it's a depend of Kafka, one of the very popular, so we can use Kafka as a message broker. So message broker, nothing, it's a simple it's a something different layer that is working between the services. So it's provide the communication channel, or we can say something message channel or in between them to talk. It provide the communication between these services actually. So there are a lot of benefit. So in that case, there no need to know about the service location where service hosted. So that's another benefit, and it's a flexible communication. And another benefits like a message broker buffers a message is depend upon the which message broker we are using. So it's also provide some like suppose in particular time some service is not available, so message broker provide the latency to hold that message so it provide the buffering things to hold that message, and after service available, it retry that uh, that produce so their consumer. So retry policy is there. So the modern brokers like Kafka is provide lot of feature we can use. So bottleneck is that suppose Kafka is down, so everything's gone. So that's very big challenge for that. So we need to be ensure the availability of Kafka broker. So we need to be secure. So these are actually message broker. So these point-to-point channels, if JMS, if you want to use, so point-to-point channels like queue, public surprise name is a topic. In Kafka, both name is topic. RabbitMQ queue or consumer queue for consumer. If you're using AWS Kinesis, then it's stream. If you are using AWS SQS, this provides queue. AWS SQS doesn't support many relationship. So challenges, if you are using messaging based things, so the challenge how to scale out the messages receiver while preserving the message order. So what does means actually? Suppose we have multiple consumers, right? We have multiple consumers, and we want to perform a multiple consumer means we want perform the scaling. So in that case, what happens? Suppose order created, we one order services create the order PIM, and and that particular order ID will be handled by the multiple consumers, right? So one consumer get the order created topic, another is get the order payment service topic for particular order, another get the delivery message delivery service invoke. So means parallelly we are handling all things like order create, payment received, or delivery. Suppose in case of payment received is failed due to message channel not available or something problem with the Kafka on particular topic. So in that case, suppose order created and delivered message will become, but payment will not happen. So that means we need to be some flow. We need to be preserving the messaging order. Means first order created, then payment received, then delivery, then restaurant service, then delivery message. So their sequence must be there for a particular order. So how we can handle at time of when we want to use multiple consumer? In that case, we need to be use particular order. How we can manage? So let's see. So if you are aware of message broker like Apache Kafka, so there's some word called partition. So we need to use partition channel in that case. So it will provide solution for that. So what happens? Suppose sender service there, and sender service have the 4 consumers, multiple consumers. So consumer 1, consumer 2, consumer 3, and multiple consumer might be there. So in that case, how we can deliver a message in an order? So these actually known as a consumer. If in case of Kafka, it's treated like a logical server or called consumer group. So suppose this is messaging infrastructure and using messaging channel, and in that case, we need to be create number of partition for a particular topic. So topic 1, topic 2, partition 1, partition 2 is sometimes called SARD, SARD 1, SARD 0, SARD. So it's actually scaling. That means for particular topic that is order, we need to be create multiple partition. That means that particular order will be served by the number of partitions parallelly. But how to preserve that order for a particular order? So we can't parallel process for a particular order. We can perform the parallelism for a number of order by the different clients. Customer 1, customer 2, customer 3. We can handle these customer parallelly by number of partitions. But for a particular customer, we need to be handled that particular order by a particular partitions only. If we want to handle particular customer order by the number of partitions, then order created, order received, order denied, or payment received, payment denied. So these all must be messed up and we can't maintain the sequence of things. Suppose we got the message is order delivered, but after some time we get payment failed. So that means payment service must be called first, then we call order delivered. So how we can handle that? So suppose we are using a router here for that. That router is something logic that actually use the SARD key to decide which order must be delivered in which SARD, in which partition. Suppose we are creating a order and that order have body and header. In the header, we have defined a SARD key. The SARD key is known as order ID. Is something hash value might be there. So it's a arbitrary value. You can use any value uniquely. So SARD key we have defined. So along with the SARD key, router will assign a particular SARD. So it assigns particular SARD. So each for all request for a particular order ID must be served by the particular SARD. That means we in that case all order will be maintained for a particular request. Suppose order ID equal to 1. For particular order ID equal to 1, we need three more requests like payment received, restaurant service request, or shipping service request. So for a particular order ID, all requests gone through the SARD, particular SARD, whatever calculated for a particular ID, right? So each SARD is actually consumed by the each consumer. So here for the Kafka, it's a logical server, single logical server, but each SARD, each partition must be assigned with one consumer, right? So as number of partitions there, as number of receiver will be there. So it's something internal part of Kafka as well. So in further, if I got time to define some Kafka things, how it's Kafka working, I will show some working example with the multiple consumer and receivers through the Kafka in the next event. So we will plan a lot of events in future. So a challenge to, if suppose we have maintained the order, then how to handle the duplicate? What happens, just like in a Kafka, it's guaranteed at least one time delivery. So what happens, suppose a consumer is fail in some time and Kafka not able to deliver that message and not able to change the offset for that particular message. So once consumer is up, it might, then Kafka doesn't know if this message is sent or not. But it make the guarantee to send once, that means it try again for particular message. That means same message might be delivered 2 times. That is the another challenge to handle the duplicate message. You might be receiving the multiple messages from the banks. Your payment has been done. 2 messages. That is a example where Kafka fails in that cases. So, but in that case, we need to be define your own logic. So we can write idempotent handler. So means if any things duplicate happens for the handler, that means handler is able to handle that duplicate message. That means there no impact on it, right? And track the message and discard the duplicate. So in that case of track message means when at the handler actually once message is received, it store in some transactional mechanism like in any database. So another message with the same message ID received again. So once try to the save in the same table, it will be failed because unique ID must be unique. So in that case, message might be denied. So it's a depend upon your choice how we can implement message handler things. So that is not like something configuration to define to resolve the things. It manual things you need to do that. You need to do that in that case. But in first challenge, we can Kafka will responsible to make multiple partitions. So we can, but router you need to be write yourself.
नहीं.
So message handle of idempotent means that write business logic such way if calling in multiple times the same input, the value has no additional effect on domain object. In a track message discard duplicate, it is a simple solution. A message broker consumer need to be track the message that is processed using by the message ID and discard any duplicate. Challenge 3, how to manage transaction. We have discussed in the previous events about Saga patterns. So we can use Saga to handle such type of things. If you're talking to the message, if you want transaction, must we use ACID property in a microservice architecture where we are using message broker things. So we can use message broker through the Saga. And Saga patterns, I'm not going to discuss detail because it's a big topic we already discussed in the previous events. But transactional messaging, one of the things we can use to make transactional. So transactional messaging is nothing. It's just like a transactional messaging used for like distributed database transaction need to be ensure ACID property. So here what happens, instead of directly sending any message to the queue, we need to be store that message in the database. So that database, suppose if if order service create the order, it update the order table, and along with that it insert a row with the message ID in a message table. So here we are not order service is not delivering any message to the message broker directly. Here message reader, one of the processes there between there, read the message, whatever inserted new, read the message and publish to the message broker. There another process is required between there. It's pull the message and push to the message broker. So we can use such type of things. So and another how to query the data. That is actually, I think we have discussed in previous events. That means how to write the query that join data, that join the data, and that is now multiple databases. Means we want some data, we want to read some data, right? And that read request actually how handle, because the order service there, payment service there, or delivery service there, or shipping service there, restaurant service there. Suppose you want to get order details. So in order data, it doesn't means only information about order particular service. It means we need to be delivery information, we need to be shipping information, we need to be restaurant information, we need to be payments information. That means we need all information that is held in a different database. So database per service we have used, we have discussed the pattern we need to be used in the microservice architecture. That means we require some data that is fetched from the multiple microservices. So but the practice with the microservice, we can't talk to the database directly with the different service. So it means if we required a data of different service, then we need to be talk to the service rather than we directly calling to the database of different service. So API composition is there. So API composition kya? Like API composition means we just talk to the different service and query your service and talk and get the data from the of each service and compose a single module. Suppose service 1, service 2, service 3 giving the data, and API composer just compose all data and return to the client. But it is not a good option once suppose we require large amount of data in that case. So what happens, all services giving the large amount of data, so composition between these data is very difficult. So in that case, that is not actually successful operation. It's a successful operation for light amount of data. So if data is too complex, we need make some joins. So in that case, it is not too simple to use. So in that case, we need to use CQRS. So CQRS, command query responsibility segregation, means we create a queryable data different. So that queryable data, nothing, it's a replica database of each service. Means service 1, service 2, service 3, creating the any data in a own database. But at the time of creation, some row in a own database, it trigger one message to the message broker, create the same row in a replica DB as well. That means that replica DB we can use as a read data. So there are two database, write database or read database. So read database will be the replica database, will be the central database that is used by the each service. So replica database might be Solr server might be there. So once suppose we want to perform some search, so we don't talk to the other services to talk the data. We just perform the search on the solution Solr, give the Solr, let the all data what is required. So means once we perform the read query, so our strategy must be different from the microservices. So you can see here in this diagram, account service, customer service. So any update in the account, it read the account DB that is associated with the account microservice. Similarly for customer service, any update or insert made to the customer service, it replicate to the customer DB that is associated with the customer service. But we can internally create one view replica, and that replication factor will be work in the database service. So here we don't need to create any message broker. This replication factor we can use whatever provided by database. So that means whatever data is comes to the account DB, it replicate to the view replica database. So at the query side, suppose we find customer and account information along with us together. So we need to be called view service. That view service directly equal to the view replica database. That means account database, customer database is available in the single database, view replica database. We can make a join perfectly by writing the query. So here we don't need to be write API composer at the in memory. Here we just find, we can left join, right join, whatever join we want to make, you can write here. And different same CQRS in different manner. Suppose as the DB not able to replicate to the replica database, might be like in that case, what happens key account DB, customer DB or view replica DB must be same technology like MySQL or MySQL or Oracle. But in microservice, microservice doesn't tied with that a specific technology. So here in that case, account DB might be Oracle or customer DB might be DB2. So how we can replicate different database to the MySQL? So here all data is different. So in that case, what happens? Suppose account service create the account, it update to the account DB, and at the same time it generate a account message and send to the account message broker. And that broker actually save that same data via view service to the replica DB. Same for customer. So it's a CQRS. So it actually CQRS is architectural design in which which reading or writing are divided in different sections. One command side, another query side. Command side, which is just any change in DB like update, insert, create. So that is command side. Query side means we want to read data only. So it is something like that. Command side post, put, delete. Query side get. So query side, it doesn't mean you need to be use only a relational database. We can use MongoDB, we can use Elasticsearch, we can use Solr, whatever we want. So CQRS pattern improve the separation of concern, dividing the application into separate parts. And using CQRS view in a microservice. So we can use a CQRS view as a microservice as well. We can create a view for microservice and view service as a microservice as well. So in the microservice is command side is like writing the database in the relation DB, or in the query side it reading from the Solr. So a particular microservice at the time of reading is going to the Elasticsearch, at the time of writing is going to the relation database. So till now we have discussed something communication patterns. right now some communication pattern internal services across the internal service, but here we need to be discussed how external client to talk to the services. But services, actually lot of services might be there. So client, as a client, we want a data in a single request. So in a monolithic application, uh, in a monolithic application, mostly one API address for any business functionality. We just suppose we want order detail, just call method get order detail, and it call all services internally and giving the data to you. But in case of microservices, external client want order detail, so there no longer one API is there. So client must be called multiple APIs, right? So you can see in the diagram, client application call get order details in a monolithic application. So in a monolithic application, it will provide all data related to the get order data in a single API. In case of microservice, because all order service, customer service, inventory service, shipping service, separate services. So data related to the order or provided by the order service, data related to the customer provided by the customer, related to the product provided by the inventory service, related to the shipping provided by the shipping service. So that means for a single call, we need to be call multiple APIs. So to overcome this problem, we need to use API gateway. So API gateway is single entry point into the application from the outside world. API gateway is not only responsible to compose the data, it also provide the different edge services like authentications or different mechanism we will see in further slides. So same application, client application through the get API gateway is called get order details. So API gateway is responsible to call all required operation behind that. So client is not able to, not aware about these things. Client is only one API, one URL. It's just called API gateway, and API gateway will handle internally. So that is the responsibility of API gateway. Like request routing means which API gateway is responsible to get the information for which type of data in which services. So everything need to be implemented the API gateway side. And API composition means all data, whatever written from these four services, need to be composed at the API gateway side and written to the client application. And protocol translation. Protocol translation means order service might be used HTTP, or customer service might be used message broker based something. So that means different protocols might be used, but client not care about which protocol used by the which service. So API gateway handle these things, which protocol or whatever behind things, it provide the abstraction about these services. And client specific API means, or suppose some mobile, some of the client want some specific format data of same service from the same service. So we can implement in, rather than implementing in the server side, we just implement the client API gateway side to client specific data. So client accordingly call the data. So and after that our API gateway is fetch the request from the client side and call to the service accordingly. And we can also use implement edge services. So edge service might be, we can also implement rate limit functionality. Rate limit functionality means if anyone called multiple times our services, so we need to be block that calls, because there some might be some script might be called your services to block your server. So we can implement a service like rate limit. If from the particular IP in particular microsecond lot of requests coming, we can block these requests. So we can write this functionality at the API gateway. And also we can need some API key, like Kong, one of the application that is actually provide the API gateway. We need one key, API key, to talk to the any services. So client must be handle that API key in the header. So MuleSoft, one of the example for API gateway, MuleSoft provide the API gateway functionality. So a lot of platform is there. Joule, if you want to create your own API gateway, we can use Netflix Joule library to create the API gateway. And till now we have seen how we can create how we can make a mechanism to communicate with the microservices. So one of the challenging things, how to design your APIs and how we can handle these requests. Talking to the REST services, so it's very something is simple to create the IPC based mechanism, and we can define your specification through the Swagger, and we can write simply. So it's in a REST it's a defined, but in case of message driven, so sometimes it's very difficult. So you can see the service structure of service. So synchronous we can call REST. So through REST we can specify very easily through the Swagger or any other technology that's provide a specification for API. But in case of event-based publication and subscribe-based publication, because this service provide this type of thing, API command queries and events publisher. So event publisher means it's a one-to-many relationship, and API command query is to one-to-one, point-to-point channel. So in the right side, you can see it's a how this service is invoked. In the left side, how this service publish the things, provide the operations. So this is left things like through the API gateway, we need a command channel. A command channel put the command to create some data, and through the reply channel, we need some reply. That reply channel used by the some another service that is client of this service. Similarly for event publisher, it has channel just publish the event but forward. Then no reply channel is there. So designing the API means we need once either we are using synchronous communication or asynchronous communication. We need to be use API first design. Means we for a consumer we need to be first we have to create the interface for API. Then we need to be create implementation for that API. So we need to be close the contract for the contract with the client first. How our client want data. So accordingly, we need to create interface. Then we can hand over that interface to the client. And internally, we need to be implement that interface to provide the API. So API first design means first we have to decide your API output, input, or consumer producer. Then we need to be design your API. Evolving API means sometimes what happens API we have designed, but what happens in future case we need to be write that API gateway. Sorry, need to be write that API again because of some change. If change is very small, so we can handle easily. But in case of change is very big or very very big functionality change, then in that case we need to be use semantic versioning. We need to be use versioning of the API. We have to provide some parameter that is segregate the version of the API. If your API, if you want to define your API through the message broker, then in that case of message broker, you need to be define your message format properly, either text based or binary based, because message format is the key for your message broker based API communication. If anything change in the message, that might be very big problem. So this is summary whatever we have discussed today. So microservice architecture, resolve many problems related to the monolithic architecture. So microservice architecture enable the agility development, frequent development, reliable, testable application. It is not a silver bullet. It is some benefits along with some challenges. So there are two way communication. There are two type of communication style: is synchronous communication or asynchronous communication. So asynchronous communication we can happen with the message based. We can use any message brokers infrastructure, and external API gateway we can use the request to handle by the external client. So that's it about today talk. If you have any question, you can ask. Do you have any question? So yeah, one more things in these slides. Till now we have only giving the theoretical things and some flow and everything. So we don't have any. We are not providing right now any code. We have code, but right now we are not providing. So we are planning to make the master slides, and at time of master slide we are providing the code as well. We put the code in the code part in slides as well, and we will show these things in running as a application. So these things in the under development, but it will be the different event, right? So that's why we in these events we are not going to the discuss about the code or anything else right now. So coding part in development, but we will provide in a master slides what whenever is prepared. So according till whatever slides we have discussed, if you have any question you can ask here, or if everything's okay, so let's end the meeting.